All right, Madam Chairman, we are live.
Good evening. I'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. We have established a quorum. Thank you for your attendance. And the next item on our agenda, number 3, is the citizens communication. Sandy, do we have anyone that's requested to present to the board this evening?
No, ma'am.
Okay, thank you very much. The next item on our agenda is the 2019-2020 audit report, and I'll go ahead at this time and turn it over to our presenter, Judy Smith.
Each of you should have a copy of the audit. I was telling the Finance Committee that even though we had a challenge in that we did a lot of the work at our office this past year for this audit, everything went so smoothly. We were very pleased with the progress the staff had made. I just can't say enough about the help that they gave us, and that it just went very well. That you need to commend your staff because they're doing a good job. If you'll turn over to page 10, I'll go over a couple of high points for you, and if you have any questions, be sure and ask me. This is the statement of net position, and it's got a comparison with the previous year. And as we've discussed in the past, we have to record liabilities associated with net pension liability and net OPEB, other post-employment benefits liability. And these are liabilities, your portion of the state. The state keeps up with your retirement and your health insurance, your retiree health insurance, and this is your portion of that liability. So it's not a liability that you're ever really going to have to come out of your pocket with. You pay into TRS every month, and you pay into the state health retirement every month based on your payroll. But this is your portion of that liability if everything shut down, I suppose. We probably have more problems than that. But in any event, you can see at the very bottom of the page, you show a negative unrestricted fund balance in the 2020 column of $18 million. If we back out all of those entries that I'm talking about, some of them are in deferred outflows. Some of the accounts are in non-current liability section. Some of the accounts are in deferred inflows. The net of all those entries is $32,345,000. So if we were able to back all those out, you actually would show a positive unrestricted fund balance. 32 minus 18. So I just wanted to point that out, that is a big distortion of your financial statements if you're trying to look at them and actually getting information out of them. On page 11 is a presentation, the balance sheet for the foundation, and you can see down in the net assets section, which is your fund balance has increased from the previous year from $10,661 to $11,816,000. So it's increased $1.1 million over the previous year. On page 12, this is your profit and loss statement. It's very condensed. There's some more detail in the back, and I'll point those out to you later. But you can see the comparison with the previous year. Tuition and fees is the first line. They were up. The second, federal grants and contracts, that's up significantly. And that the main reason that's up is you received a $3.5 million coronavirus grant last year. So that's the increase there. That also accounts for the increase in operating expenses because that grant was paid out. Half of it was paid to the students and half of it was paid to cover your cost associated with the coronavirus technology you had to gather up. And so that accounts pretty much for the increase in your expenses that went from 60 million to 64 million. You can see that in the expense section. The other non-operating revenues and expenses, you can see that's where your state appropriations shows up. The taxes down in federal revenue, non-operating, that's the Pell Grants, the financial aid. And overall, you can see that your fund balance decreased $648,000. That's at the bottom of the first of the 2020 column. And those entries we were talking about, where you have to record that net pension liability and net OPEB liability, that affected this profit and loss statement $3.2 million. So in effect, you could add that $3.2 million to this 648, and you actually would have had a profit, so to speak, for the year. Page 13 is a profit and loss statement for the foundation. And at the bottom of the page, you can see, or 3 lines up from the bottom, net change in net assets, $1.1 million. That's how much your fund balance increased in the foundation. The previous year, it increased $986,000. So it looks like you're increasing your fund balance over there about $1 million a year. Up in the expense section, a figure you might be interested in is scholarships, $1,052,000. That's how much, that's the number, the amount of the scholarships the foundation provided the college last year. On page 14, statement of cash flows that just, we have all these accrual statements that have all these expenses that you're actually not coming out of your pocket with. So this kind of tells you what happened to your cash. And in about the middle of the page, you can see increase, decrease in cash. Your cash went up $1.2 million this past year. So your cash actually increased. Over in the foundation is on page 15, and the foundation's cash also increased $104,000. Okay, if you'll turn over to page 57, I told you that your profit and loss is very condensed, and this gives you a little bit more detail of what makes up. So these figures tie to that profit and loss statement. So operating revenues, and there's a comparison with the previous year. You can see that as a whole, total tuition was up slightly, about $300,000. The fees down in the next section, scholarships, allowances, and discounts, that the tuition figure is at gross. So this section brings it down to, some of the tuition was offset with scholarships, TPEG allowances. So this gives you that information. And this is where the Pell Grant amounts also are in this section right here. Down in additional operating revenues, that section, you can see the comparison. I was talking about the federal grants had increased pretty dramatically. That $3.5 million coronavirus accounts for that increase. And overall, total operating revenues increased $7.2 million. The difference between 33 million and 26 million. Schedule B, which is on page 58, is a more detailed presentation of your expenses, and if these totals tie to that profit and loss statement in Schedule 2. Pretty much the unrestricted comparison with the previous year is very close to what it was in the previous year. The restricted is considerably higher, and that's where the coronavirus expenditures reside, the expenditures related to that grant, so that accounts for the difference there. Auxiliary decreased slightly, which would be expected because your auxiliary enterprises, you didn't have the students in the dorms and the meal service. That's auxiliary. On page 59, it's a more detailed presentation of non-operating revenues, and this is where you see the state appropriations. The ad valorem taxes are on this schedule in a comparison with the previous year. The financial aid revenues is on the line federal revenue non-operating, $10,922,000. On page 60 is a presentation of your fund balance that kind of breaks your fund balance down into what is restricted and what the restrictions are. So in the first column, you can see that your unrestricted fund balance is a negative 32 million. Well, you know, when we talked about your balance sheet earlier, I told you that the net of the activity for the net pension liability and the OPEB was about 32 million. So basically your unrestricted fund balance is about even if you back those entries out. Down below that, in that same column, renewals, 13 million, that's your board designated reserves. So that tells me that when you make a profit, you put it over there in that fund by itself and invest it. So that's 13 million is the board designated reserves at the end of the year. The next column, restricted, the $8,061 is a little dab of local grants that are unspent. The $998,000 is the cash and investments in the MJ Cox Fund. The $1,078,000 is the fund balance in your debt service. And in the far right-hand column, it shows you what's available for current operations and what's restricted. So again, that ugly minus 32 million shows up over there. But again, if we were able to back out those entries, it would be about zero. So your reserves are pretty much not available for current operations. Does anybody have any questions? That's pretty much the highlights. I'd like to answer any questions anybody has.
Any questions? Okay. Dr. Miller, did you want to add something to Judy's report?
Yeah, so let me get unmuted and I'll do that. I would like to share the screen, and I explained to the finance committee earlier that I've been fortunate to serve as a finance evaluator for the Southern Association, which is our regional accrediting body, and I have gone on site visits where we have accredited schools, and Southern Association has come up with a chart, a template to plug in data from the financial statement to back out these negative or back out the impact of these GASB issues that are clouding the picture in our financial statement. And as an evaluator, we go in and we want to get a true picture of the finances of the school. So they have come up with this form, and I'm going to share with you because I have put this together for NCTC. We're having our site visit next year for Southern Association. So let's see. Okay, I think it's there now. But if you look at Exhibit 1 that's back on page 10, if you look at that, the two lines that are highlighted in yellow on this spreadsheet that I have are the bottom two lines of Exhibit 1, the unrestricted net assets and the total net position. And so I've gone back on my chart. I have 5 years worth of data for our institution. And so we start with that. But as we get to the bottom of the page, this is where we get into the GASB issues in the financial statement. And what we're doing here, if something's been added in, then we back it out. If it's been backed out, we add it back in to try to net out the impact of those GASB issues. There's actually three things that the Southern Association has us look at and make adjustments for. One is compensated balances, which our college doesn't have. So that's irrelevant, not part of the discussion. But here at the bottom, we have three lines that deal with GASB 68 related to pensions. And we have three lines that deal with GASB 75, which is other post-employment benefits, which essentially is our health insurance for retirees. So we make all these adjustments and we get to a new bottom line. something that is more representative of the true financial position of the institution. And so you'll see here that even though unrestricted net assets improved slightly, it was still at negative $18.8 million. And even though our total net positions is a positive number, it shows here that it went down by about 600,000 from the previous year. But we make all these adjustments and we see that our true financial position is represented by a $13.4 million positive balance, which it's not really a coincidence that is virtually identical to what we have in board reserves. And that is a significant improvement over what we had last year. So if you look at the balance sheet, total net position looks like it was a negative 600 and something thousand this year. In fact, we see that if you take out the impacts that those GASB issues placed on our balance sheet, we'll see that actually our net position increased by about $3.8 million. So I wanted you to see this, and also I've talked to Judy, and what we may do moving forward is this is a chart that I would like to see added to the management discussion and analysis portion of the audit. That's the part of the audit where the management gets to respond to the findings of the audit. And so we think that is a good place. And in fact, SACS recommends that schools do this. Go ahead and put it in your MD&A to help explain why someone who may not fully understand all these issues that are going on in higher ed financial reporting, we can back those things out and come up with a better picture to represent the financial health of the organization. Does anyone have any questions? I know this is the first time you've seen this, and if anyone has a question, give me a call. If you want to look over this and ask any questions, if you'd like, I'd be happy to email this out to everyone, or I may include it in the hard copies of the audits that we're going to be getting out to you over the coming days. I may just do that. I'll print a copy of this sheet and slip it in the back. And feel free, if over the coming days, if you have any questions about it, I'll be happy to answer those questions or anything that you may have regarding the audit.
All right. Do we have any other questions or comments from Dr. Wallace?
Madam Chairman, if I could just say a couple of things. Number one, I do want to once again point out on page 57 that we are still encumbering quite a bit of expense associated with what is referred to as remissions and exemptions. So, each year I talk to the board about what unfunded mandates from the state, and those are things in which we discount tuition rates because of dual credit or because of being an EMT or first responder. There's a lot in that category that the state asks and requires us to oftentimes reduce, but we don't get a direct reinvestment from state funds for those reductions or those remissions. So I just want you to realize that's still well over $1 million. And it hits each year. And so as we discuss in future, when we talk about our dual credit reductions or our firefighter reductions or things, that's that line that I continue to tell you that tells us a lot. And Judy, correct me if I'm wrong, but that section really reflects all those kinds of discounts, and just want the board to understand. Am I correct, Judy, I think, on that?
Yes, you are.
The other thing is I want to join with Judy to just say how much I appreciate our team. LaDonna is our comptroller, and she has done a phenomenal job. And then our accountants, we have 2 new accountants that are both CPA on staff and have done phenomenal work. And I just want to join with Judy to say I think this is evidence of their great work and their heavy work and Dr. Miller's leadership. And I just want to add to her accolades to say great job to your team, Dr. Miller. Please pass that on to them from both.
I definitely will. They have done a fantastic job.
Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Okay, thank you very much for those reports. Item number 5 is the Chancellor's Administrative Report. Dr. Wallace.
Yes, to say that the last few months has been a little bit of a new environment would be the understatement of the year. 2020 has been quite a challenge, and it's been difficult to sort of navigate those waters, which we've never negotiated before. And so, along the road, we may have made a few missteps, but I think we've done a very, very good job. And looking at as we begin our holiday break, I just wanted to give the board a little bit of a thought about what's coming in the spring. So kind of give you a sense of what we will look like come spring. The college is going to have to preserve our current social distancing procedures for spring of 21. We're going to maintain space from others and is still one of the most effective tools we see for the spread of COVID-19. And in order to continue to support that effort, we're going to encourage virtual meetings and using tools such as we have right here with WebEx, and continue to restrict face-to-face meetings until we really get the vaccine populated out there and see a reduction in numbers of cases. And we'll also be continuing our institutional mask policy indefinitely, but hoping that will end sometime in the spring, but that will continue when we return. And to further ensure the health and safety, we're going to restrict travel between campuses. We'll also limit official travel to what's considered or deemed essential to the appropriate, vice chancellors will determine that. There will be no out-of-state approval of travel, and state travel will be deemed mission critical and approved until the COVID numbers nationally come up to where they are come down to where they're more of a reasonable number. We'll continue to require self-certification to be in compliance with the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board guidelines for the spring, and that would require employees and students prior to returning in the spring to self-certify that within the last 14 days they've not been exposed to COVID and do not have symptoms, or if they answer any of the yes to the questions we've posted online that they answer through the SignPro app, they would have to quarantine before coming to campus for their first start of class. No employees will be allowed to return to work until they've certified, and this will also be a requirement to return, of course, after the holiday breaks. We are opening our residence halls, but those returning students will be coming in stages and in sections of themselves where they won't return all at once. However, in the event that someone tests positive for COVID who's unable to relocate to their permanent residence, they'll be moved into separate facilities the college has established to be designated for self-isolation, and students requiring medical care will be treated as appropriate by our medical professionals in the area. We appreciate the work of some of our local physicians with us on those narrations and making sure that our protocols are set. And so we really appreciate Dr. Klein and Dr. Klein for their help and reviewing some of our protocols from a medical professional standpoint. Students who test positive for COVID may return to NCTC classes after they test negative or have been cleared by their health provider. Same goes for faculty and staff who test positive. They'll be required to work remotely. Now, there is a bit of a difference. The holiday break begins on December 21st, but I'm going to say that that we're going to see a little shift on what faculty, staff, employees can take an advantage of, and I'll talk about that in a moment, regarding the end of some of our family leave rules that have been extended through CARES, and I'll visit about that in a second. Just to let the board and community know, the holiday break begins December 21st, but basically it begins this Friday, and we come back to work on January 4th. All campus buildings will be closed to the public, but many of our departments are still going to be serving our students during that time. So, for example, December 21 through 23 and the 28th through the 30th, 10 to 2 p.m. advising, admissions, completion center, registrar, IT, all those offices will be open and they'll be serving at a staggered schedule. So students that just need some help during the break to register will be able to do so. On the 4th, when we return, we are returning to a Monday through Thursday 8 to 5 and Friday 8 to noon schedule. However, again, offices that serve students will be working staggered schedules so that coverage really is 8 to 6:30 Monday through Thursday and 8 to noons on Friday. I think that's a better plan to serve our students. It also is the essential hours of operations for increasing numbers of students without access to technologies that really need that face-to-face interaction in order to register or get their courses or just simply need some assistance. As is tradition, we'll be open January 9th on a Saturday and January 16th from 9 to 1 to serve our students on our main campuses as well. It's really important to understand that the flexibility that was afforded the college through the Department of Labor enacted Families First Coronavirus Response Act, which was FCRA, will end on December 31st, 2020. That act provided leave and pay benefits for employees who are unable to work either remotely or on site because of employees choosing to self-quarantine, they're caring for an individual that's quarantined, they have COVID or experiencing symptoms, or the employee's caring for a child. As of December 31st, 2020, should an employee fall into any of those categories, they are now going to be required to use available leave for absences, sick, vacation time. In the instance above, they do not qualify for any personal leave. So that is a shift. We're looking to see if that is maintained by new federal and executive branch as the Biden administration moves forward. We don't know what that might change or shift, if it does at all, but we will let you know as soon as we do. As you leave for the holidays, as our people leave for the holidays, we want them to make sure that they really take care of themselves. But we are encouraging them to take their technology with them, to have access to their computers if they're a position that warrants that, because we just don't know where the numbers will be on January 4. And it may be that we have to fluctuate our schedule to where we bring our people back in on the 11th or something like that. But we'll be looking at state protocol, coordinating board, federal government regulations to determine that. I want to just say how proud I am of the college, how proud I am of our staff and faculty and students. This has been a weird semester, a hard semester. And we have had no major complaints from anyone. Our students have been diligent with wearing their face coverings. I have heard from faculty how well they've adapted to the new norms. I've heard the faculty say it's not been as bad as we thought the way we're having to teach. So everybody's had such a good attitude, and I just feel that I need to tell them thank you on behalf of the college, and I know the board would join me in that, to say we appreciate your hard work, your diligence, and of course we appreciate our students still trusting in NCTC to deliver their education to them in a safe manner. You'll hear a report in just a matter of seconds here, or minutes, on our COVID numbers, but I did want to give you an insight into what the spring will look like. And I'm open, Madam Chairman, if anyone has any questions for me.
All right. If you have any questions for Dr. Wallace. Okay. All right. Very good. Thank you very much for your report. The next item, number 6, is the report to the Regents regarding COVID-19 update. Robbie? Oh. There you go.
Okay, yes, Madam Chairman, we've got, I'm just going to give you kind of a brief summary of where we're at today as far as our numbers are concerned. As of 5 o'clock today, we have a total of 17 active cases across the district. That includes 10 students and 7 staff members, employees. We have a total of 9 people that are quarantined due to contact tracing exposure. That's 3 employees and 6 students, for a total of 9 exposures that are quarantined, with a total of 26 that are quarantined for either a positive case or being exposed to a positive case. As far as where we're at right now, since school started on August the 24th, we have a total, had a total of 129 cases. That's students and employees all together. 96 students, 33 employees. And as far as month by month, I'm going to give you December's numbers. Right now, we're standing at 20 cases, which is about where we were at this time last month. We're running somewhere between 1 and 1.5 cases a day. That's kind of the average based across from August through December. So cases are staying about normal. They're more than we want, but they are pretty much in line with what's going on around us everywhere else. Anyone have any questions?
All right. How about an enrollment report?
Good evening. This is Melinda Carroll. Thank you, Madam Chairman, and the entire Board of Regents. This evening, I'd like to provide an enrollment report for the fall of 2020 as well as spring 2021. The Enrollment Management Division, along with others across the district, have been working hard, as Dr. Wallace had mentioned, about reaching out to students, processing, advising, and really meeting students to answer their questions in a virtual format, just like this, as they come on campus on a limited basis, but really preparing them for the spring 2021 semester. We did also have an opportunity the past few weeks to meet with the athletes to really kind of welcome them back and share, what the campus is going to look like. In addition to that, the advising team, along with others in the Enrollment Management Division, have also had successful virtual group advising sessions. As Dr. Wallace had mentioned, we're making plans to work over the winter break on the 21st through the 23rd and the 28th through the 30th. But actually tomorrow also we'll have a planned Q&A session tomorrow evening for students, and then again on January the 7th. But really, it's a pleasure to, give this report tonight, really to discuss what the diligent work the enrollment management team has been doing, along with others across the district, marketing, faculty. Everyone's really been, just pitching in to really help students through the enrollment process and preparing them for success. For the fall semester, North Central Texas College has officially enrolled a total unduplicated count of 9,009 students. And that's for the 4 sessions, 16-week, first 8-week, second 8-week, and then the wintermester. And that's compared to the final enrollment last fall of 10,015 students. So our current enrollment comparison, we have a decrease right now of 10.04%. The last time I presented to the board, we just compared the 16 and first 8-week. So at that time, we were about 12% difference. So you'll see a difference. We've gradually increased the enrollment. We're making progress. And as previously mentioned throughout this conversation and through some other of our board meetings, there has been several factors impacting enrollment and as students have navigated through the fall 2020 semester. But again, we are still registering for the fall of 2020 for the wintermester that begins next Monday. The current enrollment for that semester is 1,007 students compared to 921. So we're up 9.34% compared to 2019. So that's a positive. That we're moving in the right direction there. And again, for spring registration and spring and summer 2021, we are actually registering for both of those semesters, but my report tonight will just be focusing on spring 2021. Our current unduplicated head count is 5,308 students, and that is for all sessions, the 16 first 8 weeks, second 8 week, and then the Maymester. Compared to last year at this time, we were at 6,146 students. So we're down right now 13.63%. But our goal, and we have, our goal right now is to reach 6,000 before the end of the year, since we will be open and serving students. That's an internal goal within our division. So we will keep you updated if we reach that. I'll certainly be reaching out to Dr. Wallace as we throughout the break. So, but I did also want to provide a similar enrollment update that we did in the fall, comparing spring 2021 numbers for the 16-week and the first 8 week. That enrollment count, where we're just looking at the first 2 sessions, that will impact our state funding, our base year funding, we're at 5,263 compared to our final of 8,637. So right now it's a difference of 39%. We want to try and at least reach, close to the 8,000 goal, with reality knowing that we probably will be down compared to last fall at those 2 sessions. So just wanted to provide that information. But it is important to, and probably at the end of, and whenever we're reporting base year totals, we'll really provide an update of what all sessions are involved in those base year totals. So that way we will have a better understanding of our base year for spring 2021. Spring 2021 is set to begin Tuesday, January the 19th. As Dr. Wallace mentioned, we will be open on 2 Saturdays whenever we return on the 9th and the 16th, and again until 6:30. But we are also going to be registering through the first full week of classes. So we have a little bit, about 6 weeks left, if you're counting while we're closed over the break. But there are various campaigns, reaching out to students, texting, phone calls, emails, and things like that, where it's really a college-wide effort of trying to meet students where they are and explain the process and, really help them navigate through that. And again, I want to give a huge thank you to the Division of Enrollment Management for their continued hard work, but also to all of the staff as well. And as such as yourselves, of the support you've given NCTC, the whole entire team, and our students. So I'm here to answer any questions you have, and I can also provide the actual data that I presented. I can provide that to Dr. Wallace so that you'll have a copy.
Melinda's already answered the question I had, is how we're letting students know. It sounds like you're on top of that for sure.
We're making an effort to do that. So, and something that we did kick off that I didn't put in the report, that we're doing something different that was approved just for spring 2021 and moving forward, we're starting to send virtual acceptance letters. So hopefully that will make a difference in how we're, reaching our young people who like to use their virtual devices, and don't want text messaging. They want a text message and then be able to click something. So thank you.
Any other comments or questions for Melinda? All right. Okay. Thank you very much for the report. The next item, number 7 on our agenda, is the consideration for approval of the consent agenda items. Is there any items A through F that we'd like to remove to address independently? Okay. It doesn't appear that there are. Therefore, I would make a motion to approve the consent agenda items. Okay, Mr. Hand, approve a motion. Do I have a second? Okay, I have a motion. I'm sorry, I didn't hear either Mr. Hand made the motion or a second. I'm not sure which.
Second.
I think Mr. Hayen made the motion because we don't have a motion yet and we need a second now.
Yeah, we need a second.
I move we accept the consent agenda as presented. I thought
Okay.
Carla did it.
Okay, so we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
I have a second by Erica. Thank you very much. Any additional discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Okay, for the record, it was all for, Sandy. All members present voted for.
And Madam Chairman, you may want to, Mr. Grime joined you. You might want.
Yes, Mr. Grime.
Yes.
Sorry, thank you for remembering that. I believe he's on mute.
He will have to accept and unmute himself.
There he is.
There we go.
Mr. Grime, are
Yes.
you in favor of that motion?
Aye.
Okay, very good. So all members voted for the motion. Opposed? There weren't any. Motion carried. Thank you. All right, the next item is the executive session, I believe. And for tonight, we do not have any need to have an executive session. That's really good because it would be kind of difficult.
That's right.
But so we will go on to the next item, which is adjournment.
I move we adjourn.
Mr. Hayen moved that we adjourn. We have a second. Second by Mr. Ott. Thank you very much for attending this evening and have a very Merry Christmas.
I'll do.
Merry Christmas. Thank y'all so much. Appreciate it.
Bye-bye.